Hello everyone, welcome back to the homestead. So today we are going to be working out in the garden and I'm going to be planting my favorite food, and that just happens to be potatoes. I could eat potatoes 3 meals out of the day. Potatoes are very versatile, pretty easy to store. You can store them several different ways. So you can see we have all our potatoes already cut up into pieces. And so what you do is you take your seed potato just like this, and it's got the eyes growing out of it. And you can see that there's eyes that haven't quite grown yet, but they're small and green. And you would cut that up, and I like to have probably at least 2 eyes on a piece of potato. And I could probably cut this potato into 4 different pieces. And so we've got these all cut up. It helps you multiply the number of potatoes you have so you can plant more potatoes. And we've got 2 different types of potatoes we're planting today. One is going to be Kennebec potatoes. It's a white potato, and it's probably one of my favorites. I like a russet style potato. And so we've got more of that kind. And then over there we've got some Yukon Golds. It's more of a yellowy looking potato. It's got more of a yellow color to it. It is also a good storing potato. Both of these are good storing potatoes. Now, I don't really have a root cellar. We'd like to get a root cellar, actually. And so these potatoes will not store in my basement too long. I will be able to store them for a few months. But typically we blanch and freeze most of our potatoes. And that's the way I would prefer to do it. You can also dehydrate them and can them. We've done both of those things. But I think my preferred method would be to just freeze the potato. So let's go ahead and get out to the garden and start planting these. We're going to be planting these in raised beds today. I've been planting my potatoes in raised beds now for several years, and I seem to have decent luck at it. If I had really good soil here, which I don't because it's clay soil, I've had real good luck in the ground as well back when we lived in town. But considering the soil conditions we have here, we've choose to grow potatoes in raised beds instead. So we're going to be planting our potatoes in our corner raised beds because these are the biggest garden beds we have. And these are 3 feet wide and they're 11 inches tall. You're really going to prefer to have a raised bed that's probably at least minimum 12 inches tall, somewhere close to there, for growing potatoes. So we're going to try to get 3 rows of potatoes in this garden bed. We're going to plant them somewhere around 8 inches apart. We're going to plant them fairly deep, probably close to 8 inches deep as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start laying these potatoes out and start getting them planted. So I just like to dig down and loosen the soil up. Dig the rest out with my hand. Put the piece of potato down there, cover it up. It's pretty easy. But I wish I had one of those augers. I saw Living Traditions Homestead had like a little auger that you put on a drill and you just drill a hole in the ground. I think that'd be pretty handy. I'm gonna get me one. So most people, when they plant their potatoes, they like to put the eyes pointing up if possible when they plant them. So always try to do that. So in the first raised bed over there, we planted fairly intensively. We planted everything close together. I don't have enough seed potatoes to do that to the next 2 beds, so I'm going to space these apart. We're probably only going to do 2 rows in these next 2 beds. And this bed here is loose enough I can do this by hand. So I've got all the potatoes for this year all planted and growing in raised beds. You know, there's pluses and there's minuses to it, and probably the plus, the main thing of what's beneficial of growing in a raised bed is that you have control over the soil. Instead of me planting in the ground in this hard, compact clay soil, I'm planting in this nice, loose, compost-rich soil here to grow my potatoes. And it's just going to be a lot better conditions just to grow them in. Now, the downfalls of a raised bed, of course, is going to be raised beds tend to dry out quickly and they need a lot of watering. And also, when you grow potatoes traditionally in the ground, you hill your potatoes. So you take the dirt from the sides and you push it up onto the potato plant to help cover it, because the potatoes will form on the surface and they'll peek out of the dirt and then they'll turn green to the sunlight. Well, you're going to have that same effect in a raised bed, so that you won't notice it at first, but toward the end of the season, when the potatoes are starting to really form and get big, you will see them start to peek through the surface. And you maybe find that it's hard to see them because they're starting to turn green, they're matching the plant. But the only way to prevent that is to mulch it. You either got to mulch it or you got to cover it up with soil to keep the sunlight off of it. But this raised bed here is completely full of soil, and the first one we planted, it's full of soil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mulch it. I'm going to mulch it with pine shavings, and pine shavings would be a good way to mulch this without bringing any weed seeds, because if you get straw, a lot of times that is just taken out of the field after they harvest wheat, and there's usually a lot of weeds and stuff mixed in the field when they harvest that. So I think that pine shavings is a better choice than straw. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put pine shavings on here. Hopefully that will help hold in the moisture as well, and it'll keep those potatoes from turning green. As those potatoes forms and that bed wants to start to kind of bulge a little bit with potatoes, I may have to add a little bit more pine shavings. Now, the raised bed back in this corner or back there, that's actually probably 2 to 3 inches shy of dirt from being at the top. So I'll probably, on that one, I'll probably just take a layer of topsoil and try to mimic the whole hilling process and just cover everything back up with dirt, and hopefully you know, that'll keep the potatoes covered enough where they don't turn green and I have a good harvest. But we'll just have to wait and see how that all turns out. But I thought maybe I'd just take you a quick walk through of the garden, maybe show you the orchard as well, and show you what we have growing so far. I mean, it's early in the season, but you know, things are starting to come out, and the orchard's really starting to bloom. So in the garden, we did have a few things that survived last year. This green stuff right here, this is parsley, and it actually stayed green most of the winter. It actually surprised how well that did. And then this tall plant here, these are all sage. Look like all the sage plants came back. So here in our hinged low tunnels, we got a bunch of lettuce and spinach. So we got spinach growing here, and then this is all different types of lettuce growing, and they're coming along pretty good. In this bed over here, we planted some transplants from inside, so these were a little bit bigger when we transplanted them out here. And these ones right here, I think these are black-seeded Simpson here in front, and man, they look really good. You can see we've got a lot of seedlings that were grown out here. These 2 trays right here, this is cauliflower and broccoli. So there's a bunch of cauliflower and I can't even talk. Broccoli. We've got some onions. Didn't do real good growing our onions this year. And we've just got a bunch of different things growing from seed. So we got some cilantro and a few pieces of lettuce, or a few lettuce plants that we transplanted out here. And then this is some rosemary that survived. Not all of it survived. You can see some of these are kind of dead, but look like most of the rosemary survived the wintertime. And then over here is our strawberries. And the strawberries are starting to come back to life. So these are all everbearing. So they should, as long as we keep these watered, you got to keep them watered, these will produce strawberries all year. So yeah, I already got some strawberries. Hopefully here, I think it's going to be, they'll start coming on here around May. So here in another month, we'll have some strawberries. Okay, let's move on to the orchard. So this is our 18 fruit tree orchard. There's a mixture of a lot of different things here. So last time we were out here, the plums were in bloom and these peach trees were putting on their pink blossoms. And you can see the pink blossoms, all the peach trees kind of go down through the middle here. And so they're about in full bloom now. And then we now have over there, that is I believe that is a pear tree that is in bloom. So we do have some pears that are in bloom. And then we also, our cherry trees are starting to bloom. So this white one right here, this is a cherry tree. And some of the apples are just starting to wake up. You can see this is a Granny Smith apple and it's getting its leaves. I think you can also see that there's some blooms there. Those blooms are getting ready to open up. So the apples are getting ready to bloom. Now we do have one apple tree that's actually starting probably a little bit farther on blooming. This is a Liberty apple, and you can see all the blooms that are forming on this tree. So yeah, the orchard's really starting to look good. So this is a cherry tree here as well. Not very many blooms on it. I see a few right up here, but yeah, most of the trees are now putting on their flowers. So orchard's looking pretty good. We got one tree here that's the slowest to wake up, and this is the one we've never got fruit off of, but this is the pink lady apple. You can just look at it and it just still looks very bare. But you can see as you get a little closer, you can see some leaves and stuff all just starting to come out. It's just a little slower than the rest. So that's what the orchard and the garden is looking like right now, and pretty nice day out. I'm just waiting for Rebecca to get back home. So, well, here comes Rebecca. She's been gone. It's her day off, and she went mushroom hunting. I'm gonna find out whether she got any or not. So, did you get any mushrooms?
46.
46. How many did you get to keep?
I don't know. I grabbed about 20.
You got about 20? Yeah, so she went mushroom hunting with her mom and dad today. Yeah. There's still some parks and stuff open, so they were able to go back on four-wheeler trails and go.
Yeah, we were the only people out there. So.
Go mushroom hunting.
Yeah, we were finding them all over the place.
Well, that's
just
good.
Like right along the trails and yeah, everywhere we looked, they were. And a lot of them were just coming up, so we're only in Tuesday.
Yeah, so 46 today and more on Tuesday, hopefully.
Yeah. Yep. Some were little, but we got a few big ones.
You found some here on our property here the other day too.
Yeah, I need to go back in the woods and look.
Yeah.
Back where
Well, maybe we can go mushroom hunting.
Yeah.
Together. So these are morel mushrooms, and I know you guys call them grays and blacks and yellows. So
yeah, there's a little bit of a mixture of everything.
So that one a black right here, like these.
Yeah.
Is this a
It's
gray?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't know if I.
Usually yellows are last, right?
Yes. We found a couple small ones that looked yellow. This one had looked yellow when I picked it. They kind of get dark and drying up. This one was, yeah, see some are just coming up a little tiny. There were some even smaller than that that we found. They were just a little bitty.
All right, so we're gonna just soak this in water to try to get any bugs and dirt and stuff out of it before salt water before we fry it. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll salt water.
Sometimes I cut them in half, but I'll drain this water and then soak them again.
Well, now that Rebecca's home from mushroom hunting we're gonna go and mushroom hunt our own woods. So we're gonna go in the back, see if we can find any and walk around.
Scout's coming.
And looks like Scout's coming with us.
Come on, buddy. Go find some mushrooms, Scout. Sniff them out. Come on, you gotta find the mushrooms. You smell them? Where are they? You gotta, they smell like this. Like that. Smell. Smell. No, smell. Go find them. Come on. Use your sniffer.
You ready, Scout?